What's up guys, Houndish here, and today we have a huge, massive, it's a big old this week at Bungie, and we get a bunch of new details about Shadowkeep, a bit of a roadmap for that. Bungie break down the content that we're going to see over the first few weeks, and that includes the dungeon, raid challenges, exotic quests, and a bunch of other stuff, so we'll touch on that. They also say we'll be getting another Vidoc before the release of Shadowkeep, and then they give us details on weapon sandbox updates, coming in the update on October 1st. This does include exotics and a bunch of perks, and some more changes they're going to be making to Reckoning, as well as a few other things to round up in the video. So guys, if you enjoy this one, and you're new to the channel, be sure to hit subscribe to keep up to date with everything related to the game, but otherwise, let's get straight into it. First up, they talk about Shadowkeep. They say they've talked a lot about how Shadowkeep will change the way we play Destiny, and they're not done yet. So we'll have more to say before October 1st on how the game is about to evolve. There might even be a final pre-launch Bungie Vidoc about Year 3 next week. And so that's going to be something to look forward to. Remember last year, when Forsaken launched, we did get a Vidoc with a kind of breakdown of what we'd see in the annual pass, so perhaps Bungie will give us a bit of an idea of how seasons and the content in general is going to roll out. But they say seeing Guardians rejoin Eris on the moon for a new adventure is not the only thing we're looking forward to when we daydream launch day. As this new campaign against the Minions of the Darkness begins, a new season of Destiny gameplay will begin with it, followed by 3 additional seasons of updates. We're about to kick off a whole new year of explorations, rewards, and surprises. But not everything should be left to surprise. And so right here, this calendar shows what's coming free to all players of D2, and what's in store for Shadowkeep. And so here is our Shadowkeep launch roadmap. Initially, we've got launch day on the 1st of October. The Destiny 2 base game will now be free to play, and the moon destination will open, as well as the seasonal artifact which will become available, and so we're not going to have to wait beyond kind of launch day to get access to that. We'll also get the finishers, Armor 2.0, a new strike called the Festering Core, and another strike called Scarlet Keep. Free seasonal updates will include Crucible updates, reprised PvP map Widow's Court, as well as Twilight Gap, and a new PvP map Fragment. Then of course we have Elimination in Crucible Labs, and other free seasonal rank rewards. But now we get into the juicy stuff that's going to kind of populate the DLC next season, so on the 5th of October, we'll have the launch of the raid, and that's also when Vex Offensive begins, so it looks like that activity will launch once the raid has been kind of completed, or players have started to tackle it. On the 8th of October, we're going to get Hero and Legend Nightmare Hunts, so those are going to be new difficulties, or higher tier difficulties as far as we know, and presumably the Nightmare Hunts will have already gone live with the kind of base launch of Shadowkeep. Then on 15th of October, we'll get Master Nightmare Hunts, as well as the Iron Banner. So it sounds like that one's going to be pretty difficult. This is followed by the exotic quest for Leviathan's Breath on the 22nd of October. The 29th of October, up until the 19th of November, we'll see Festival of the Lost. So that event is returning for this year, but then on 29th of October as well, we're going to see the launch of a new dungeon. So that in itself is really exciting, but it will be accompanied alongside a new PvP mode called Momentum Control. So we'll have to get a few more details about that by the sounds of things. According to this roadmap, Divinity will see its own exotic quest launch on the 29th of October, and so potentially linked to the raid, but potentially not if it is a separate quest right here. Regardless, 29th of October is going to be really busy with Festival of the Lost, the dungeon, the new PvP mode, and the exotic quest for Divinity going live at the same time. There are going to be raid challenge modes for Garden of Salvation, so we can see right here the first one launches on 5th of November, and the next piece of roadmap content will be the Vex Offensive Final Assault taking place on the 19th of November. And it sounds like that could be a kind of seasonal conclusion based on the way that Bungie have spoken about this content previously, because of course we should be getting another season starting early in December. So there it is, that's the roadmap that they've given us for now. October for sure is going to be a very busy one, but then they kind of set us up with a bunch of stuff to do throughout November as well. So as always, I'd love to hear your thoughts about that, and it's good to get some dates on some of those content drops. Now though, Bungie talk about weapon changes, so let's get straight into them. In general, weapon mods are now treated as reusable unlocks instead of consumables. Any mods you have in your inventory will be converted to unlocks, and this gives players the opportunity to play with different mods more frequently, and if the only copy of a mod you have is already on a gun, you will need to reacquire one to unlock it. So weapons are getting the reusable mods there. For auto rifles, they are increasing PvE damage by between plus 30 and plus 25 depending on the combatant rank. So some scaling damage changes there depending on what you're actually fighting, but at least 25% buff is definitely good. Then for bows, PvE damage has been increased by 31% against minor enemies and 26% against major enemies. They also fixed an issue where bow draw times were displayed incorrectly in the inspection screen. Now, PvE damage against minor enemies for hand cannons has been increased by 30%. Lightweight and adaptive hand cannons use a new firing animation while aiming down sights, and this change was made to increase weapon accuracy when firing these weapons as fast as possible. So for example, players currently can shoot faster than the recoil animation of 140 and 150 archetypes. So while the hand cannon looks to have fully reset from recoil, the following projectile will be shot as if the weapon was still in a recoiled state. That's a pretty interesting insight right there, but it's something that they are fixing going into Shadowkeep. They've also reduced the effect that the range stat has on damage falloff, so the effective range for those weapon archetypes. We'll have to see how those play out, but for machine guns, PvE damage against minor enemies has been increased by 25%, and they've increased the effects of damage range falloff on the weapon archetype. So in general, they're going to have less range by the sounds of it. And then PvE damage for pulse rifles against minor enemies has been increased by 28%. They have increased the effects of damage range falloff on this weapon archetype, and for archetype-specific damage changes, rapid-fire pulses now deal 14 base damage or 23.8 precision damage, which was previously 13 or 21.4, and then high-impact pulses now deal 21 base damage or 33.6 precision damage, which was previously 20 versus 32. So there are some adjustments to those archetypes, but then for scout rifles, PvE damage has been increased between 36% and 18% depending on combatant rank. So in PvE we're getting at least 18% bonus damage from where we are now, but it can scale up to a 36% damage buff depending on what you're shooting. Now we have sidearms, so PvE damage increased to minor and major combatants by 16%. For sniper rifles, PvE damage has been increased by plus 47% against minor enemies and plus 20 for other enemies. Exotic sniper rifle perk damage bonuses have been modified to compensate for the change, and they will not receive the full benefits as a result. And then for submachine guns, PvE damage increased by 22.5% against major and minor combatants. But for aggressive frames, they've removed the intrinsic effect of deals bonus damage at close range. This bonus was 10%, but was unintentionally always active. The bonus damage has been moved to the base damage for 750 RPM submachine guns, resulting in no damage change. As a result, Taraba and the Huckleberry gain 10% damage in both PvE and PvP. So there are some definite positives that come out of that. Speaking of exotics though, there are some exotic specific changes. So for Sweet Business, they've increased the magazine size from 100 to 150 rounds, increased PvE damage by 15%, and then high caliber rounds have been replaced with armor piercing rounds, and then damage has been changed to 15 and 21% base or precision damage, whereas previously 13.2 and 21.1. The weapon no longer requires you to be firing when you pick up ammo to have it automatically reloaded. Graviton Lance damage has been increased by 30% in PvE. That's a pretty solid buff right there, we'll see how it plays out. Sunshot has had the magazine size increased to 12. Vigilance Wing PvE damage increased by 25%. For Crimson, the damage has been changed to 19 at base and 30.5 precision, which was previously 13.7 versus 24.7. Man, some pretty crazy numbers going on here. But they fixed an issue that was causing the weapon to deal higher flinch than intended. They also fixed the missing aim assist stat for the Merciless. Now the final three. Ace of Spades Memento Mori damage bonus is now affected by range falloff, so there is damage drop off there. Lumina Noble rounds should apply their buff to allies more reliably, and the Serve the Colony perk on the colony now functions as auto-loading holster does. Some pretty interesting changes right there, guys. Quite a few things to dissect, and we'll have to see how they play out in the game, an awful lot of numbers. But mostly I think we are looking at some pretty positive changes. A final shout from Twab is that starting on September 17th, all negative modifiers will be removed from Reckoning. The activity will continue to feature a weekly Singe, with a daily rotation of Brawler, Grenadier and Heavyweight, but the goal in this change is to improve the replayability of Reckoning, so players will feel more inclined to hop in matchmaking for some sweet loot. And so, we won't be getting the negative or the kind of more highly punishing modifiers in Reckoning anymore. That is yet another adjustment that we're seeing to the mode. There have been quite a few, so let us know your thoughts about them. Something interesting I wanted to talk about right here would be a tidbit from an interview that we had a couple of weeks back. This was from Hobby Consoles and it wasn't super news heavy or anything. Mostly about Bungie's approach and coverage for Year 3, but interestingly, Scott Taylor did say that in Shadowkeep, you can play practically whatever you want, something that didn't happen in the old days of Destiny, where you had to go following certain steps before trying the coolest new content. And we have seen more of this as time has gone by in D2, but he is strongly suggesting that in Shadowkeep, they'll make it pretty easy for us to get into the action and new content, and we don't necessarily need to kind of expect huge amounts of story or quest content in order to actually play the exciting new stuff. So that sounds good, and we'll have to see how it manifests in the game itself. They also asked a question about leveling beyond 960 with the artifact, and one of the Bungie devs said that the device will give the possibility of raising more light levels, and there will be players who strive to reach that limit, but the limit itself is the end of the season, because when it ends, another will begin, and we'll have a new device. So we have heard about a theoretically uncapped amount of power, but this does add some extra colour in that the season's end will be the absolute power limit. And by the way, since XP is needed for some of the artifact leveling, a lot of folks have started hoarding bounties to turn in for XP next season, especially things like the weekly Gambit or even the Forge bounties are some of the best. So if you're looking to level up that artifact super quickly, Sweatcicle did make a video breaking down how saving these could be hugely beneficial, so if you're looking to chew through all of that stuff, I'll link the video down below. Finally, Bungie confirm that they will be at PAX Australia this year. It'll be after the launch of Shadowkeep on October 11th, but a bunch of folks from the Destiny Down Under podcast will be present. Myling Games, of course many of you guys will know who he is, but also Bungie designer Victoria Dolbaum and Morla, the actress who voices Eris Morn, are going to be there to host a panel with insights into D2 Shadowkeep. So definitely something to check out if you're in that corner of the world, but we can expect those panels to be streamed as well, so I'll link further details about that down below. But otherwise, my friends, that's everything that we've got to talk about in the video today. Hoping we're going to get a few more juicy reveals for Shadowkeep in the weeks to come. You'll probably notice things have been a little bit quieter here on the channel over the past couple of weeks. It might be a little bit quiet for a couple of weeks more, although I'll definitely cover all of the news as it happens. But I know a lot of you guys are playing different games and stuff like that, but if things do get a little bit quiet, expect the cadence to steadily pick up on October 1st when, well, there will be a ridiculous amount of content to cover then. But guys, if you've enjoyed this video, a rating really helps me out. Be sure to give us any of your thoughts about it down in the comment section. And if you're new to the channel, be sure to get subscribed to keep up to date with everything related to Destiny 2. Otherwise though, thank you for tuning in, and whatever you guys get up to, I hope you have an awesome day.